Hello everyone, my name is Sive and I'm very excited about this video because I am starting a new series called THRIFTATURE. That's right folks, I'm going to be focusing solely on pre-owned, second-hand, thrifted literature. This first video is going to be a mini haul of all of the books that I have purchased from thrift stores in the past 6-ish or so months. Obviously, we are in a pandemic, and so I would like to give a little disclaimer that I live in South Carolina in the United States, and our laws state that in retail spaces that are privately owned, masks are required to be worn, but however, they are open to the general public. So I have obviously abided by all of those ordinances in order to pick up these lovely reads that I'm excited to show you today. I've organized them by genre, and I won't be really going into the specifics of the plot or what the books are really about so much as so just talking about the actual books that I was able to thrift. So let's get into it. First, I would like to talk about classics. My first book here is a vintage old copy of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, as well as Kidnapped, like it says on this beautiful spine, which are both by the same author, Robert Louis Stevenson. And I have read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I've never read Kidnapped, but I really loved that book. Gothic literature is something I studied in high school and I really loved it. And so when I found this really cool navy copy at my thrift store for $6.90, I could not pass it up. It has some faded gold detailing on the spine with really ornate designing, and I'm not even sure if you can see it in this shot, but it has a beautiful insignia stamp of Robert Louis Stevenson's initials right here on the front cover. The second and last vintage classic that I have to show you is this beautiful red copy of The Tales of Edgar Allan Poe. This is extremely small text, but it is basically a condensed version of all of Edgar Allan Poe's works. I've read a couple of them in the past, and 2 of them I believe from the specific copy since picking it up, but one of my favorite things about this copy is actually a stamp that is on the inside cover here. You can see that this was a copy of the Board of Education of New York in 1947. It's just such a cool piece of history, and to be able to have it in my possession and in my house is just so cool. This book definitely makes me geek out a little bit. The next book is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, and this copy is a Wordsworth Classic Edition. Nothing super special about it, I would say. I just, after reading it last year and really loving it, I wanted to have my own copy. This edition is complete with illustrations and the previous owner's penciled in annotations, which I think is such a cool detail for any individuals who are interested in thrifting books. Looking for annotations of a previous owner is always such a cool detail to see. Notes and annotations either penciled in or underlines or writing in the margins, I always find is a cool thing to have with the book because it pays homage to its previous life, and I feel it brings it a lot of character. And the last classic I'm going to talk about is an Ernest Hemingway. This is The Sun Also Rises. This edition is beautiful. I looked this up on eBay, and after seeing a bunch of editions floating around, I definitely decided this one was my favorite. I think the 20s style neckline with the hat and scarf is just such a cool element of this copy, especially given the fact that this book was written and published in 1926, so it definitely pays homage to that decade. Next, I'm going to move on to fantasy. This first book is The Foreshadowing by Marcus Sedgwick, and I've read one of his books previously and loved it. Loved his writing style, extremely creative, kind of gave me a little bit of like Neil Gaiman-esque vibes. This is about a young girl in 1915, and she has this horrible gift that she does not want, and it gets her into trouble. That's kind of about as much as I'm going to talk about this book. With the classics, I was able to talk a little bit about the design of the cover and a little bit about the edition. However, this one is just solid, dense paperback. It doesn't have a lot of give to it. It feels like it hasn't really been opened. Like, it definitely doesn't have a lot of bounce to it. However, it does have this one very interesting kind of damage up in the corner. Either way, I'm very excited to have this copy. I looked for it in the library and on Hoopla, and it was not there. I bought this off of thriftbooks.com. I'm here for it. The next fantasy book that I have thrifted in the past 6 or so months is Fire by Kristen Kishore. This is the second book to the Graceling Realm series, and this is as far as I've got in the series. The 4th one just came out earlier this year, so I have a little bit of catching up to do. The next one is Bitter Blue, and I do plan on reading that. This is just a nice classic paperback edition, and this is an example of the give that I was talking about with the foreshadowing earlier. But this just has like a lot of like floopiness to it. Doesn't this just look more like it's gonna be more fun to read? So yeah, I read this towards the end of last year, and I do not plan on getting rid of it anytime soon. I absolutely love the Graceling Realm series, and I'm excited to continue it later on. And our last fantasy thrifted literature is going to be the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb, and this trilogy is something that I have wanted to pick up for a long time. I found these beautiful editions on eBay. They are actually our UK editions. Don't know about you guys, but I pretty much across the board prefer UK editions. So being able to find something like this that I plan on investing a lot of my time in, clearly because it's so freaking big, in a beautiful edition that I want to keep on my shelves for a long time is very, very special. They were relatively cheap and I love them. I actually finished Assassin's Apprentice in a recent vlog, so if you would like to check that video out, I'll leave the link in the description and you can hear some more detailed thoughts about what I think about the actual plot and characters and the actual story of the book. So that's the Farseer trilogy and I love them so much. The next two books are more in the genre of literary fiction. I was able to find and pick up a copy of All Adults Here by Emma Straub, and this book is relatively new. It was published in 2020. This is a nice, solid, high-quality hardback book that I was very impressed to find. Emma Straub is a well-renowned and New York Times best-selling author, and so when I saw her name on this cover, though I know almost nothing about this book, I had to pick it up. It was very cheap. I believe it was about $2, and if I don't get around to reading it in the next couple of months, I will likely donate or sell it. And our second literary fiction, I guess you could call this, is The Farm by Joanne Ramos. This book is about motherhood and futures of mothers and how they sacrifice or contribute to their futures in different ways due to societal pressure. I didn't really know a whole lot about this book. Again, I picked it up because it is a 2019 release and I found it relatively cheap at a thrift store. So if I don't read it, which I probably won't because a friend of mine started it and she said it wasn't good at all, so we'll see. But I might again either sell it or give it away. All that being said, this is a large print edition. It's a beautiful paperback. Again, with the floppiness, it's got a lot more give in the spine. Also, I don't know how everybody feels about large print. There's some people who swear by it and some people say it really takes away from their reading experience. I read my first large print book when I read Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas, and it was bad. It didn't take away from my reading experience. I kind of dug it, honestly. So yeah, that's The Farm. And I saved this book for last because it doesn't really fall into a literary genre. It's honestly just a beautiful journal. This book is a hardcover copy of Choose Hope and Take Action. This book is by Lori Roberts and it is a journal to inspire and empower. There are some beautiful colors and illustrations done in watercolor, I believe. There are beautiful quotes and prompts for writing for the individual. And I flipped through it and is absolutely completely unused. And I have not started it yet. I haven't, I'm sorry. This book would cover a wide range of subjects, including inspiration and empowerment, as well as politics, environmental change, and prompting research and interaction from the individual who is going through this journal. I wanted to include this because it's unlike anything I've ever thrifted, and I thought it was cool. So thank you so much for joining me. That concludes all of the books that I have thrifted in the past 6 or so months. I am very excited to be starting this series of Thriftature. I think it's going to be a very versatile series. I would like to do a full kind of introduction video for it later on down the road, but right now I'm kind of liking the open-ended definition of what the series could be on this channel, so we'll see. I've always been a big thrifter. I think there's a lot of potential for benefiting the book community with thrifting. However, I do know it's a bigger discussion as supporting new releases and new authors is also very important. So without getting into too much depth with that, I would love to do an intro video for this new series of Thriftature. But for now, I do think this is a great first installment and just something kind of fun. Sit down and chat with you guys about some books that I'm excited about that I have thrifted in the past little while. So thank you so much for joining me, and I greatly appreciate your time and attention. I had a fun time talking to you guys about these books. I hope you all are having a lovely day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!